Fat? Maybe. Ugly? Well, I can't help that. I can't even help the hind end of a poodle business, although I think that's going a bit far. But a liar? No, my friend. That's one thing I am not. While I'll give this a pass today, you'll need to get a little more creative than that if you want to win the Nod Award. And America's Truth Detector will be right back in a moment to hear from you. He pushed back the mic on its black telescoping arm. As the first notes of the newscast jingle sounded in his ears, Jim pulled the padded black headphones down around his neck. He and Victoria now had 6 minutes to themselves before the third and final hour of the broadcast. "I'm going to get some tea," she said, without meeting his eyes. Jim nodded. In the last week, there had been a strained civility between them when they were off mic. On air, though, they still had chemistry. Even if now it was the kind of chemistry you got from mixing together the wrong chemicals in your junior scientist kit. On air, everything was different. Jim was more indignant and mocking than he ever was in real life. Victoria made vaguely dirty jokes that she wouldn't tolerate hearing off mic, and on air, they still mostly got along, bantering and feeding each other lines. Victoria grabbed her mug and stood up. Even though she was half Japanese, she was 5'10", with legs that went on forever. Handing him a padded envelope from a publisher, she said, "This was in my box this morning, but it's really yours." When she pushed open the heavy door to the screening room, the weather strip on the bottom made a sucking sound. For a minute, Jim could hear Chris talking to Willow, the intern, and Aaron, the program director, in the screener's booth. Then the door closed with a snick. There were magnets on the door and frame, and Jim was left in the silent bubble of the studio. In addition to the magnets and the weather stripping, the walls and ceiling were covered with blue textured soundproofing material that resembled the loop side of Velcro. Jim grabbed the first piece of mail from his inbox and slid it with a letter opener. He scanned the note inside. Dad's 75th birthday. Love to have a signed photo. Yada, yada. "Happy birthday, Larry," he scrawled on a black and white headshot he pulled from dozens kept in a file folder. "Your friend, Jim Fate." Paper clipping the envelope and letter to the photo, he put them off to the side for Willow to handle. 3 more photo requests, each of which took about 20 seconds to deal with. Jim had signed his name so many times in the last 10 years that it was routine, but he still got a secret thrill each time he did it. There were still about 3 minutes left, so he decided to open the package from the publisher. He liked books about true crime, politics, or culture, with authors he could book on the show. Jim pulled the red string tab on the envelope. It got stuck halfway through, and he had to give it an extra hard tug. There was an odd hissing sound as a paperback talk radio fell onto his lap. A book of a play turned into a movie, both based on the true-life killing of talk show host Alan Berg, gunned down in his own driveway. What the... Jim never finished the thought. The red string had been connected to a small canister of gas hidden in the envelope. Now it sprayed directly into his face. He gasped. With just that first breath, Jim knew something was terribly wrong. He couldn't see the gas, couldn't smell it, but he could feel its damp fog coat the inside of his nose and throat. He swept the package away. It landed behind him in the far corner of the studio. Whatever it was in the air. So he shouldn't breathe. Jim clamped his lips together and scrambled to his feet, yanking off the headphones. It was just like what had happened in Seattle 3 weeks earlier. 58 people had died from sarin gas in what seemed to be a botched terrorist attack. His chest already starting to ache, Jim looked out through the thick glass wall into the control room on his right. Greg, the board operator, was half turned away, gobbling a payday bar. He was watching his banks of equipment, ready to press the buttons for commercials and national feeds. In the call screener's booth directly in front of Jim, Aaron was still talking to Chris and Willow, waving his hands for emphasis. Jim was unnoticed, sealed away in his bubble.